So the first thing we're going to do is to make sure that, the kids are able to get, and just use one hand, and they're able to very quickly say how many fingers there are in one hand. And not only that, you also are keeping track of how many fingers are closed. And that's a kind of an important concept to make sure that when they get to the point where they have to figure out, okay, how many more fingers does it take to get to 5 or get to 10, that becomes a very important concept. So let's just start with this first exercise, very simple. How many fingers did I open, and how many fingers are closed just with one hand under 5, right? Okay, all right, so how many fingers are there?
2, 4.
Okay, now how many fingers are closed?
3, 1.
How many fingers are open?
2.
How many fingers are closed?
3.
Okay, so how many fingers are open?
3.
How many more fingers do you need to get to 5?
2 more fingers.
2 more fingers to make it 5, right? Okay, so how many more fingers to make it 5?
4 more fingers to make it 5.
Okay, so now you got to tell me when I open the fingers, you got to say 2 open fingers, right? And then 3 more fingers to make it 5. Okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay. So 2 fingers, and then I need 3 more fingers to make it 5.
Okay.
3 fingers.
Say 3 fingers. 3 fingers.
3 fingers, and then I need 2 more to make it 5.
Okay.
2 fingers, and then I need 3 more fingers to make it 5. Okay. 4 fingers, I need 1 more fingers to make it 5.
All right, that's very straightforward. So the second set of exercises we're going to do is to make sure that they get the idea of 5 plus something. In this exercise, we're not going to change the number of fingers. We're just going to hold one hand, all the 5 fingers up. And with the second hand, we're going to make sure that they get, whether it's 7 fingers or 8 fingers, right? And the same drill. You want to make sure that you understand how many fingers are open. And you also want to make sure that you also tell me how many fingers are closed. Right? All right, so for this one, how many fingers?
7 fingers. 9 fingers.
And you can also look at the screen over there, right? Okay.
8 fingers. 9 fingers. 10 fingers. 7 fingers.
Just say 7, okay?
7. 6. 7.
All right, so, and they should not be doing any counting at this point of time. They just should kind of remember that 5 and just 2 make 7, right? So initially they'll have a little bit struggle with that, but you got to make sure that they're able to get to like 5 and then 2, and they just say blurted out like 7, 9, and they also say 9 and 1 more to make it 10. So now you're teaching them the idea of complements, right? So when you say 7, 10's complement is 3. So they want to make sure that they understand that if we have 7 fingers, they say, okay, 7, 3 more to make it 10, right? Is that right in there? Okay,
right.
So let's go through this exercise one more time.
Okay. 6.
And then how many more to make it 10?
4 more to make it 10.
Okay, so that's what you got to say. You got to say 7, 3 more to make it 10, okay? Go.
7, 3 more to make it 10. 6, 4 more to make it 10. 7, 3 more to make it 10. 8, 2 more to make it 10. 6, 4 more to make it 10.
Right? So we want to make sure that they kind of intuitively have a sense of, whatever number they start with, they got to have some idea about how to get to 10, right? And the reason why we're doing open and close is because when we get to the point where we're actually starting to do 2 fingers, like so for example, we still hold 2 hands up And now what we're going to do is we're going to start with numbers that are less than 2 and say how many more fingers, like, because now they have kind of a mental picture. Instead of looking at open fingers, they can be looking at closed fingers. So they know that 5 and 2 fingers make 7, right? So they're now looking at closed fingers as well as open fingers. Right, Indu?
Right.
So how many fingers?
3 fingers.
How many fingers are closed?
7 fingers.
So 3 fingers. And how many more to make 10?
Is 7 fingers.
Right?
2 fingers. 8 more fingers to make it 10. 3 fingers. 7 more fingers to make it 10. 7 fingers. 3 more to make 3 fingers to
3 more to make it
3 more fingers to make it 10.
right?
6 fingers. 4 more fingers to make it 10. 2 fingers. 8 more fingers to make it 10. 4 fingers. 6 more fingers to make it 10.
Right? So in this exercise, we started with opening 5 fingers. If you observe closely, we've never opened, we always made sure that one of the hands was either completely open or one of the hand was completely closed. So we either did 5 plus 1, 5 plus 2, 5 plus 3, 5 plus 4, and 5 plus 5, or we did one hand closed and we still were showing all the 10 fingers. Yeah, some of the fingers were closed. We were always making sure that, we had either one hand completely closed or completely open. So they kind of understand numbers around 5, right?
Right.
Okay, there you go. So in the third set of videos are when we're going to get into the 4 plus 3s and the 2 plus 6s of the world. But even then, you want them to start thinking about first, how do you get to 5, and then how do you even borrow from one hand to the other. For example, you have things like 4 plus 2. How many fingers are 4 plus 2 in it?
6.
Okay, so how did you do that?
So I put one over here and I take away one over there.
Right? So, what you were doing there was you knew how many fingers to get to 5 first, right?
Right.
So you knew that you had to add 1 finger. So if you added 1 finger over here, you want to make sure that you take away 1 finger from here, right?
Right.
Okay, so how did you do 3 plus 3?
6.
How did you get to that? How did you get there?
So I need to take away 2 and then put it over here.
And why did you take away 2 from here? Because you knew that from 3, you got to have 2 more to make it 5, right?
Yes.
So 2 more to make it 5. So you have to take this 2 over here,
Yeah.
right? And then now you have 6,
Yes.
right? So let's do, now we have 6, right? So let's do a few exercises. What is 4 plus 3? Do it quickly.
7.
How did you do it?
Okay. So I need to take away this one and put
This
that
one
one
over
over here.
Right? So, and you're inculcating this idea of first, let's get to 5 first, and then let's see how many fingers are left out. And in the future, when we get to like some things like 8 plus 7, that comes in very handy because they know, okay, let's first get to 10, and then let's see how many are left out. And they're also getting the idea about how do you borrow stuff from something else. Like for example, in this scenario, she was able to borrow 2 fingers from this hand and give it to this hand. And in the future, when they have to borrow maybe a 10 from 100 when they're doing subtractions, they're already getting the idea of like, okay, I can borrow something from somewhere else and add it somewhere else. And that's a very, very important concept that they got to understand. So at this point of time, before they get to the next level, you want to drill this enough that when you just do 2 plus 4 or 2 plus 6, they got to very intuitively do this kind of work, right? Yeah. So so before we even get to 6 plus 2s and stuff like that, so when you do 4 plus 3, first make sure that they do it with fingers and stuff, but then you want to make sure that they can just say it out loud, right? So this time we're not going to do any borrowing. When I just show you the number of fingers, you're going to just say it, right? So how many fingers?
6 fingers.
No, you just say how many fingers are there.
6 fingers.
No, how many fingers?
Oh, 7 fingers.
7 fingers. No, you just say how many fingers.
Yes, 6 fingers.
6 fingers.
Yes. 5 fingers.
Right? So that's a third set of workouts, and this tends to get a little. You want to make sure that the kids have a lot of practice. For example, for Indu, it almost took nearly 3 to 4 weeks of practice to get beyond this level. So please be very patient because this is like you're putting the idea of like, let's get to the 5 and then let's go from there. And that's a very abstract concept for kids this age. So please be patient. So the fourth set of exercises are the ones that you want to make sure that they understand that 6 plus 2 and 2 plus 6 are the same thing. And they kind of at this point of time intuitively know that if you say what is 6 plus 2, that tends to be easier, but they really struggle when you ask them what 2 plus 6 is. So you want to make sure that when you say 2 plus 6, they say, oh, 2 plus 6 is the same thing as 6 plus 2, and they say 6 plus 2 is 8, all right? So what is 7 plus 2?
9.
Okay, what is 2 plus 7?
9.
Okay, what is 3 plus 6?
9.
So you gotta say 3 plus 6 is the same as 6 plus 3, and 6 plus 3 is 9, right? Okay, what is 2 plus 6?
Oh, so 6 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 6. So 2 plus 6 is 8.
2 plus 6 is 8, right? Okay, what is 3 plus 7?
Okay, so 7 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 7. So 3 plus 7 is 10.
Very good job. And mind you, like this sounds simple, but this took the longest amount of time. It literally took us another 3 to 4 weeks to get over that hurdle. Again, the great thing about these kind of workouts is that I never really spend more than 15 to 20 minutes on exercising one set of skills. So just make sure that you take the time to keep on asking them the questions and make them say it out loud. Because, when you say, what is 2 plus 6? I want them to say, oh, 2 plus 6 is the same as 6 plus 2. And 6 plus 2 is 8. And I want you to make sure that you make them say it out loud and many, many, many times. And each time you don't have to spend more than 15, 20 minutes tops to make them sit down. And most of the times you don't like doing things for more than 20 minutes, right, Indu?
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So the fifth set of exercises are very critical before you get to numbers beyond 10. And that ability is to break down a number. Like if you take a number like 7, you want to be able to break it down as 4 and 3 or 2 and 5 or 5 and 2. And the reason being that when you get to the point where you're doing things like 8 plus 5, you want them to, again, get to 10 first and then see that 5 is nothing but 2 plus 3, so they know that once they get to 10, they will have 3 more, right, Indu? So, for example, what is 7? So if you from 4, you want to get to 7, how many do you need?
I need 3.
You need 3 more to make it 7, right? Okay, 8 is 2 and?
Is 2 and 5.
8, to get to 8.
To get to 8. So
Look over here. To get to 8 from 2, you first have to get to 5.
Oh, 6.
Yeah, so you first have to get to 5. So you got 3 to make it 5, and then 3
And
more,
then
3 more,
to make it 8.
right? So you got 6 more, right? Okay, so let's do a couple of exercises like that. 6 is 2 and
6 is 2. So 6 is 2. 6 is 2 and 4.
6 is 2 and 4. 4 is 2 and
4 is 2 and 6.
4, just to get to 4. 2 and
4 is 2 and 2.
2 and 2. 5 is 3 and
5 is 3 and 2.
7 is 4 and
7 is 4 and 3.
9 is 7 and
9 is 7 and 3.
9, carefully. What is 7 and 3?
7.
9 is 7 and
7 and 2.
7 and 2. There you go. And this is a very challenging exercise, and you want to make sure that, again, this took another 3 to 4 weeks solid for us to get here. And even now, as we get to the higher levels and we are starting to do like something like 26 plus 34, even now, she gets tripped up in these kind of exercises. So make sure that you're reinforcing this kind of idea is like, how do you identify a gap? Like if they see that, hey, there's a number 7 there and I start with 3, how many more to get to 7? Just be patient. Again, this is something that typically takes about 4 to 6 weeks for kids this age to get very comfortable with. So please be patient. Then once you get to this level, and I would strongly urge you not to get to numbers beyond 10 before they understand how to break up the numbers. And I really think this is super critical that they know that when you give something like 8 plus 6, that they are able to break. So because there are 3 concepts out there, right? They first have to identify to do 8 plus 6, they have to get to 10 first. So from 8, they know that they have to get to 2 to add 2 more to get to 10. And then they also have to see that 6 is nothing but 2 and then 4. So they're really mixing a lot of concepts in here. So it's actually a fairly complicated concept for a 4 or 5-year-old to get this. So make sure that you're doing as many drills as possible and be very, very patient about it. And when you get to beyond, the next exercises are going to be things like 8 plus 6 and 7 plus 4 and things of that nature. They take a long time because they're doing, if you have to do 7 plus 5, they first have to see that, okay, from 7 it takes 3 more, but then to make it 5, I need 2 more. So that's a very, very complex set of concepts they're bringing together. But once they get this idea, a lot of ideas are just falling into place. All right? Thank you.